Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. And this week we're very lucky to have Dan Wood with us from Draft2Digital. We're very excited. Say hello.
Hey, Dan.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Dan.
Good to be here.
Welcome back.
So Dan is going to give us all the ins and outs of Draft2Digital. But first of all, I am going to read out his bio, and then we'll get right into the rest of the interview. So we've got Dan Wood, Chief Operating Officer at Draft2Digital, which is one of the best known oh my gosh, I can't speak today.
No,
Distributors.
choose your word.
Choose my words. Okay, I'll just have to take a deep breath. Distributors for ebooks, print books, and audiobooks. Dan manages the customer support, marketing, business development, and operations teams at Draft2Digital. I don't know how you have any time to do anything else if you're managing that many different teams, but anyway. He also works with merchandisers at various sales channels to help promote authors, and he's the guy that goes to all the conferences through the year and knows pretty much everyone in the self-publishing industry. Say hello.
Oh,
That's true.
welcome, Dan.
That's so true. Welcome.
Although we did just
I have a fun job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get to travel. We did just establish that you don't go to all the conferences anymore. You used to go to like 20 plus last time we talked to you.
Yeah, I used to be on the road for half the year, and now it's more like a third of the year.
Oh.
Okay. Oh,
I think we've met
That's an
you at a few
improvement.
conferences over the years.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
sure.
Kind of all over the world too. It's been
Yeah,
exciting.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
last time we interviewed was episode 172, and it was back in 2019. So
Wow.
Oh, there were
Really?
4 times.
It
Couple
doesn't-
of- yeah.
Yeah.
a couple of things
The
have
way
happened
back
since then.
when.
Yeah. So before we want to talk to you about all the changes that have happened with Draft2Digital. I'm just going to call it D2D, like that's what I'm going
Yeah.
to call it from now on.
Fine by me.
And since we last spoke to you, but first of all, just for anyone listening who's not really sure exactly what you guys do, can you just give the real basic overarching description?
Yeah. The simplest way to think of us is we're who you go to get everywhere else besides Amazon. We are a distributor or an aggregator. We have a big platform that's made to help you distribute mainly your ebooks and help you get everywhere, all the different platforms. And so that's going to be the major other digital retailers like Apple Books, Kobo, Barnes and Noble. The German market is Tolino. We also go into like all kinds of different library services. So if you want to get your ebooks into libraries, like in the US and many of the global markets, Overdrive is the way to get into them. BorrowBox for Australia and New Zealand is pretty big. We get into Hoopla, which is also another. There's so many different library distribution points, and we love that. We really love getting into the library systems. And now we've also got a lot of subscription services. So other people have tried to compete in that market that Kindle Unlimited focuses on, because obviously people like subscription services for their media. You can see people using Netflix and Spotify and all those different things. So books are no different. And so we work with companies like Scribd, which has now rebranded to Everend. So you might have seen that name around. That's just Scribd. They're kind of splitting out their document sharing service from their book subscription service. And then other subscription platforms that are a little bit smaller throughout the world.
Okay.
And then we also like that. While that's our main business model, that's kind of how we make most of our revenue. We have now delved into a lot of different services that we provide. We have some of them like our universal book links and books to read that are free for authors, and you can use it, no matter what. You don't have to be distributing through Draft2Digital, and that just helps you find the links for your book on various retailers and then share a single link so that you can have a social media. And then when the reader clicks on the link, they will see a list of stores that they might want to buy from. Once they've clicked on their preferred storefront, then it just always will take them to that storefront if they use any of your other links that you share there. We recently acquired selfpubbookcovers.com. So we're helping authors find book covers at reasonable prices, because that's a barrier we've seen for some of the indies when they're first getting started, is trying to find a good book cover and not spend an arm and a leg on it. Obviously, we just acquired Smashwords. I'm sure we'll go into a lot more detail about that. we're in the process of migrating Smashwords users over onto our distribution platform. But with Smashwords, we also gained our own retailer. And so we have our own storefront now. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger part of our business. Outside of eBooks, we've now do print, and we've opened that to everybody. So, if you don't have a print book, we can help you with that. You actually get support, and that reaches many of the worldwide markets. And we're even working with Apple to experiment with digital narration. So that's going to be, if you've been interested in making an audiobook out of your book, Apple has a program where they will do that for free, and make a digital version of your book that you can distribute to Apple. And they're going to be allowing this also be distributed and sold on library platforms soon.
Okay, well, that's awesome.
Wow.
So just a
Lots.
couple of things going on.
Yeah. Oh, I even forgot one. We also, a year or two ago, we acquired Author Email. And so we're working on building an email service that is made for authors, and it's not so expensive, because many of you are using people like MailerLite and MailChimp.
Yeah.
And they built a lot of tools for a lot of small businesses and medium-sized businesses, but the way authors use email is very different. And so Author Email has been doing email services for authors now for about 5 or 6 years. And that brought in Nick Thacker onto our team. And so he's running that effort and just providing a much cheaper solution to provide you all the things you might need as an author, but not all the tools that you would need and have to pay a lot extra for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's right.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to add on to all the other things. So let's dive deeper into some of those things. So let's maybe, I don't know, let's start with Smashwords, because I think that was a big deal for you guys to get that. So so what does it mean now that you've got Smashwords on board? Like, what are the benefits for authors in terms of having that there as part of your stable?
Yeah, that's been, we've known for a long time that Smashwords had a very similar view of the industry and of authors, and really we're just trying to help authors. And so we had been for years reaching out to them, wanting to work with them, because we had a lot of books that we knew our authors would like to distribute on the Smashwords store, which is a fantastic place for, especially right now, like romance and erotica. It's one of the better storefronts, and it still accepts a lot of the different content that some of the other retailers are no longer accepting. And so we wanted to get our books onto there. So we reach out every so often. And then I want to say it was the end of 2021, we kind of reached out again, and Mark Coker wanted to talk. And so we started talking, and we just saw a lot of synergy between our businesses. At their heart, they were also a distributor and doing, helping people get their books into all the different retailers. We thought, why are we kind of like doing this all alone when we could combine our resources? At Draft2Digital, we had built like so many different tools to help do that and to make it just much easier, I think, than their platform had been in the past. One thing we were known for was that we have a free EPUB generator, and so we could take the Word documents and convert them into all the different file formats you would need. And it was much easier than the meat grinder. And so that kind of is why a lot of people switched over to us in the first place. And so we're kind of in the middle of, for our authors and authors that have been with Smashwords, we are migrating their accounts over to the Draft2Digital platform, where they'll have access to all the different tool sets that we built to help with managing when you've got a big catalog, and help you with making the EPUB if you're not using a program like Vellum or Atticus. Kind of on top of that, it gives all of the Draft2Digital users access to some things that we didn't have, like the storefront, coupon codes that you can use to the Smashwords store. So it's really a win-win for everybody. We just started at the end of this last year migrating accounts over. And so we're kind of starting with kind of the simplest accounts for us to migrate are when people don't have not already had a Draft2Digital account. And so we've already migrated several thousand of those accounts over to our system. Those authors get access to a lot of cool stuff. Like, they no longer have to just get paid through PayPal. They can get paid through 4 or 5 different ways. like international direct deposit, Payoneer, check even. We just have a lot of different ways for authors to be paid that are a lot quicker than PayPal. And so that's been great to be able to offer that to everybody. And throughout this year, we're going to be working on moving, we hope to be done with the migration by the end of 2024 and just get everyone migrated over. For the authors that had accounts on both, we're trying to make sure that we combine everything down to just one account. And so you're not going to have to log into 2 different websites to manage everything. With Smashwords, if you had pen names, you would have to have separate accounts for those. We'll be able to merge those into one account on Draft2Digital. So I think a lot of people are really going to love that. And they kind of go from there. It really brings a lot of, we already, Draft2Digital added about 3 different new distribution platforms that Smashwords had been working with for a while. And so we got those contracts and we're able to make those available to all the Draft2Digital users. Smashwords users are able to get into things like Tolino and a couple of different ones that we had that Smashwords did not. So it's kind of really broadening the reach of all indie authors, and our combined size makes it easier for us to negotiate for more and more new distribution options. It helps us to negotiate better terms for the indie authors. For Smashwords authors, they're not necessarily used to. Smashwords had always done kind of a opt out by default, whereas with Draft2Digital, we never opt you into anything. And so if you start using Draft2Digital, you get to choose exactly where we send your books. And so if you've already got your book live at like Kobo, then you don't have to worry about us accidentally sending it to them and making a duplicate listing. If we add a new distributor, we always ask you if you want us to add your books to that distributor or not. We give you an easy button to hit that if you want to send all your books there, you can. If you just want to send one by one, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
That's
All those
Very
things.
user friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Has
user
it
friendly.
been a smooth process? Like, are authors experiencing kind of issues around the merging, or is it?
It's been remarkably smooth, but slower than we had wanted. Like we had hoped to be much further along at this point, but there's just so many little gotchas to doing all this. And we want to make sure that we do as much of the work on our end as possible. We're not making authors have to spend a lot of their time, because we'd much prefer that authors are just writing. So yeah, it's been, we have a really great developer team, and they have been really trying to think of everything. And especially since the pandemic, we went to remote work. And so a lot of the people we've been hiring over the last 2 years are also authors themselves. They're people from the indie community. And so we get to kind of, they've allowed us to test on their books. We've always had authors like Mark Lefebvre and Kevin Tomlinson up until recently. So we've always had like our own books to experiment with. But now we have so many more of those. So that's been great and lets us work out all the kinks ahead of time.
Yeah. So did you
Wow.
say there were more than 1 million books now that you've merged? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just, I think 2 months ago, we crossed the threshold. When we merged, we were at about 900,000 books that we distributed. And now we're over 1 million, which is just, I never thought we'd see that day. So that's incredible. Because I think Draft2Digital was somewhere around 300,000 and Smashwords had about 600,000. And so
Oh, wow.
just the combination of those forces, and especially as we move everyone over, there's going to be a lot of cost savings to us in managing all these different sources. And we'll have, I can't wait to have like their developers free to do a lot more work on we want to make the Smashwords store better as far as search capability, more user friendly. Maybe update the look of the site a little bit. And so we're excited about getting to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
It definitely does need a bit of a revamp, doesn't it? When you compare it to Draft2Digital, which is pretty.
Yeah.
And easy to use.
Yeah, we've definitely gotten that feedback from a lot of authors. So.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's pretty exciting. Is there anything more that you wanted to add about Smashwords and Draft2Digital? Is there any other Has anyone got any
I think
questions?
that covers everything. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's just a process that's going to happen, but it's exciting. Like that's
Yeah,
a
really
lot
Yeah.
of books
I-
that are
And
in
the facility to get them into more libraries, I think, is huge for authors, because I
Mm.
think for most of us, you kind of feel like it's such an untapped resource and place for our readers to go. And a lot of people are still so heavily into libraries, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just gives them an opportunity to find us.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people underestimate like the discoverability factor of libraries, and I think it's good just right now in the present, but I think there's going to be generations of readers like me that grew up going to the library and not necessarily being able to afford to buy books back then when I was younger, but then went on to buy all the books of, you know, the books I loved when I was a kid, and when I finally had a job where I could afford to do so, and then following those authors. And so I think I'm a big fan of libraries. Grew up fairly poor, and so didn't have the same sort of access. And libraries gave me access to the whole world.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
true.
yeah, libraries is where it all began for me.
Yeah.
My love of reading. Yeah.
And
Still
then I
like
Now
going
they
to
have
the
like the
library.
digital audiobooks you can listen to, which is, you know,
Yeah.
you don't even have to go into the library. You can just check things out on your phone, and that
Yeah.
blows my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's crazy. I don't like giving books back though. I used to get massive library fines.
Yeah.
Why does it not surprise
No, I
us?
was going to say that. None of us are surprised by that, Trudy. No one.
I know. So we know that you're distributing the books for authors, and that's awesome. But there's loads of other stuff that you guys do, and so one of them you've already mentioned is the books to read, promotional, like the links and everything. So can you go over that a little bit for people listening, like explain a little bit more in depth and what the opportunities are there and how that all works?
Yeah, we early on in around 2014, we saw that a lot of indie authors were sharing when their books went live, sharing a link for their readers to follow them on social media to buy, but they would frequently just share the Amazon link. And so we wanted to solve that because, you know, we think that there should be more retailers, and we don't want to, unfortunately, when too much power is in the hands of one retailer, that retailer generally uses that power to squeeze more and more margins out of it. And so we knew like it's a pain. Like you didn't want to be making 7 or 8 different posts as you got a link for Apple, as you got a link for Barnes and Noble. And you didn't know how visible those were going to be because of the way the algorithms work on social media. So we wanted to make something, and you can think of it kind of like if you've ever used a link shortener like Bitly, where it's a books to read link. If you don't select, if you just use that link, it's generally going to be like a random sequence of numbers and characters, like bookstoread.com/something. But you can, if choose your own like wording for the link if it's already not used. So like, for instance, you could set up a books to read link that's the name of your book, or the name of your series or something like that. And so you go to the bookstoread.com site and you can set up as many of these links as you want. They're free. You just provide us a link to your book on one of the retailers like Amazon, and then we will go search the other retailers to find the links on all of those different retailers. That's going to be for the ebook, where we do that automatically. You can add in like your own print links, although you do have to do that manually and just where you get the link, because the print links are a little bit harder to find. And now we're starting to also accept audiobook links. And so it just gives you a link that you can then share on your social media, and it gives the readers access to any of the retailers they want to hit. And once they've used one of the books to read links once, we know exactly where to send them. And so it's just like they're clicking on a direct link to the retailer after that. You get some different stats about, you know, how often the link is being clicked on and everything. So it's just a really easy way to make sure readers can find your book everywhere. Because, yeah, again, we want to save authors as much time as possible, because we know indie authors are doing the work of about 10 to 20 different people that they usually would have, given that work over to a publisher.
It's also
Yeah.
going to save the reader a lot of time too, because suddenly
It
with
does.
one click, they've got all these opportunities to buy a book in a different format that they hadn't considered until they went to that link and saw that it was perhaps available in print or audio. And, they
Yeah.
don't have to search for it. It's right there.
Very handy.
Yeah. So can you use them for Facebook ads, or is that, do we know? Is that a question I can
I'm
ask?
pretty sure you could. There,
I
you,
think you can, I think.
I want to say you can, but I'm not positive.
Mm.
I just wonder,
I think,
sometimes there's problems
you
with
could
the
do.
links that you use. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And so with that, there's also in there, in Books to Read, there's other things that you can do. So there's not just the universal book link. I've got new release notifications and
Yeah. We
author
have an
pages.
option to let you can add links in the end of your book to let readers sign up. Like for people that don't have an email newsletter list of their own, we do encourage people to have their own newsletter, because that can be very important. You kind of want to own as much access as you can to your readers. But it just kind of lets people know, like as a new book goes live, we email that reader when the link on their preferred sales channel goes live. Just kind of lets them know. Unlike Amazon, we actually do send those out as soon as we get the links. You don't have to worry about those notifications actually being sent to anybody. On top of that, Bookstory, we built some like bookshelves where you can make custom bookshelves. So if you want to share like just kind of a website or web page to your readers of some books that you like, or like let's say you want to share a link of writing craft books that have really helped you to your author friends, you can make a custom bookshelf and decide what book is featured, and then all the books they're showing on that custom bookshelf. Just something to make it really easy, and then that's all built on the Bookstory technology. So those will all have links to all the different retailers, just making it really, really simple to share something to readers.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And did you mention author pages? Yeah, you did. No? So can you do
I
a
don't think I
page?
have yet. No, and the author page can be thought of like, Amazon has what do they call it? Is that Author Central?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have your author page on Amazon, and so we wanted to kind of recreate that experience for wide authors, so that they have a place where they can share a link. They can control and have, like a photo of themselves. They can have their social media links to their email newsletter, just making it really easy. So if they didn't have the sort of skill set to set up their own website yet, that we made it where they had a page that they could share with readers that would get them access to all the different things you would find on an author's landing page on Amazon, links to all their books, just making that really, really easy.
That's cool. And that's a cool thing to be able to share out into the world as well. So that's
It's just
awesome.
another option, isn't it?
Yeah.
What
So
sort
that's
of
cool.
promotion?
Yeah, and
Sorry.
the hard part is always the marketing, and so
That's
just
what I
trying
was
to make
gonna
as many
ask you.
marketing
Yeah.
tools as can be possible.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's awesome. And so I know you want to ask about promotions, Wendy.
I was just asking what sort of promotional opportunities there are on Draft2Digital for authors.
Yeah, we have been working now with the different digital retailers for about 10 years on different promotion opportunities. And so, I think a lot of people write into our customer support and asking us what we do to market books. And ultimately, the marketing is up to you. But we do try to make sure authors know about different promotional opportunities. We are always pushing our content and looking at, if we have books that are selling well on Barnes and Noble, it's a good chance they're going to sell well on Apple as well. And so letting the different merchandisers and sales people at our partners know about those books. And so we do have a promotions newsletter you can sign up for. We let people know whenever they have books that qualify. So what I mean by that is, let's say we have a promotion at Overdrive. If you are using us for Overdrive, we will notify you about that promotion. Some of the promotions will be a little bit more specific, like they might be a certain subgenre of romance on Apple. And so if you've got books that are live at Apple that are in that genre, we will let you know. And then you just basically will fill out a form that we have kind of lets us know you're interested. Lets us know if you agree to, if there are any stipulations, like some of the promotions will ask you to lower the price of your book for like a week. Which, by the way, you can do on Draft2Digital ahead of time. You can schedule pricing promotions, and it will get all that information to the retailer. They can lower the price on the day of the promotion and then raise it back exactly when the promotion is over. And so,
Is that a quite fast process? Like, you know, if you change
It
the
is.
price.
compared to some of the others.
I love it. I love it.
It's kind of a back end thing that's part of the whole system of how we distribute. And so as long as you send those price changes to the retailers ahead of time, they can process them and they know about them, and they can automate it on their end. Unlike, like, you know, if you made a price change right this moment, it would probably take, some of the retailers would have it done in 2 hours, and some of them would probably not be done for another 48 hours. That's why we send it ahead of time, so they have plenty of time to go ahead and process the file,
So
and
is there a
then
time
they note it
frame?
in their system.
Is there a time frame you recommending? Like 2 days? Or?
Yeah, I think 2 days is generally a pretty safe, because like some of the retailers don't process stuff on weekends. You know, if there is a holiday that you're aware of coming up, holidays can also delay processing files, and so it's always good to get the information to them as soon as possible.
And also, I would add here to our listeners that if you want to do a price match on Amazon, you have to make sure that those prices are changed on the other platforms. And it also gives you proof that it has, because you can get those links, check the prices, and send those through to Amazon when you send the links to the stores that you want them to change your price to.
Just another job for authors.
I have a standard letter.
Yeah.
For Amazon.
Yeah.
Is that everything you can do in books to read? Is there anything that I've forgotten or not?
I think so at this point. I mean, we keep adding things to books to read, so I've actually lost track of some of the different stuff. But we did. I think we covered all the major stuff.
I think that the most important thing is having that one link to all of the options. That's awesome. You
just click on it and it goes, which store do you want to go to? It's great. It's such a simple,
and
the fact that you can personalize it too is great.
Yeah, it's great. We have some YouTube videos for people that are really want to get more deeply into that. We've made some tutorials about the different books to read features, because it is kind of, it's been an expanding tool set. And so, like I said, at this point, I don't remember everything it does.
It
You guys
takes
are real.
longer.
Sorry, you go, Trudy.
I was going to say it takes longer for some of the links to find each other. Is that to get up onto that thing? That's one thing I did notice.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Some of the retailers are a little bit slower. Like their websites are a little bit slower to respond. And some of them actively fight web scraping or web crawling. And so we're always having to kind of adjust the way our software works. For like some of the names, like Amazon is the worst offender, where, you know, while they are crawling everyone else's website to see exactly what prices are on their competitors, they don't want anyone crawling theirs. And so
the big behemoth.
Funny that. Okay, so that's cool.
So you guys are a real one-stop shop for a newbie, aren't you? Like, I mean, it's the best place to go, because you can do, if you're clueless about this process, which we were when we first started, there's no getting around that, but we didn't have this option. But you guys really, you can format through you guys, you can do everything, can't you?
Yeah, and that's what we wanted to do, was just make it as simple as possible, because there were so many authors starting to either get their rights back kind of at the beginning of the indie revolution, but they didn't know how to publish, and they didn't, you know, back then you would have to buy very expensive tools to make EPUBs. And now you don't have to do any of that. You look at the progress we've made in the last 10 years, and it's phenomenal. You know, services like us, BookFunnel, Vellum, like just making things very simple for authors.
And I think there's so much for an author to learn that, well, we actually plug you on the podcast quite a lot. When you're starting out, we say, go to Amazon, sure, but then go to somewhere like Draft2Digital, and we all use Draft2Digital, because it just makes life so much easier if you only have to learn 2 platforms as opposed to all the things.
And I think
we you go.
you go.
We saw that a lot of our competitors and a lot of the different players out in the industry just weren't doing customer support. And so just making sure we had people that were actually reading the emails and responding to what you were asking rather than having kind of form letters that we sent out that were just kind of generic answers to everything. We've maintained phone support. So because we know that there's just times when it's just easier to talk about a problem with a person over the phone.
Yeah, you've got great help desk.
Yeah. And that's big. I think for me that
huge
is a game changer. Like if I had two options, if one had better customer support, I'd be there every day of the week. It's a big deal.
That'd be annoying.
Yeah,
and I can be so annoying.
we know. We
With
know.
my handbag sitting in the foyer.
But I think even better is that there's no barrier like cost, is there, to getting a Draft2Digital account? It's just that easy as filling in all the details, isn't it?
Yeah, for a very long time, we didn't want to charge authors for anything. Now as we expanded into some services, we are starting and like getting into print, you've got to have certain charges, but we're trying to keep those charges as low as possible because we want to just kind of eliminate that barrier to entry of needing money. And we think the industry and the world are a better place the more authors we can create, especially for other authors. Like authors read more than your average reader, and so the more authors we make, better off we're all going to be.
So let's talk a little bit about print. So that's something that's come on board recent times. Like how does that
you were in
work?
beta for a while, I think, weren't you?
We had a very long beta because print is complicated, way more complicated than ebooks. But it's been great, and our sales it's been one of the strongest growing parts of our business, and just trying to make print books easy because I'm sure many of you have worked with Kindle Print and like Ingram Spark. And again, there's kind of a lack of support with print. Each one of them demands a different size cover. And that's weird. Like, even though it's the same books, there's different specifications and dimensions. Early on, like in 2013 to 2014, we worked with CreateSpace for a bit. And where authors tended to stop on print was being able to provide that special cover you need, because instead of just having a flat like rectangular ebook type image, you would need this cover that would wrap around the spine. And so it would have both the front cover, the back cover, and the spine. And there's this very specific way you have to do the ISBN, or not the ISBN, I'm sorry, the barcode. That's all very complicated. It ends up just being something most authors will pay a cover designer to do, but they also generally charging you quite a bit to do that. So kind of the thing we tackled with ours that I think really differentiates it beyond just having actual support is we made a cover creator that takes your ebook cover, and we look at the dominant colors within that cover, and we stretch around a cover for you. And then, you can customize it a bit, but generally it's going to be on the spine. You're going to have the title of the book. Then on the back, we'll use whatever description or blurb you gave us. And then you can put an author photo down at the bottom, and then we're going to generate the barcode for you. And so making that very, very simple, because we looked at our books and we saw that many of them just did not have print books available. And print is still the biggest format out there. And so it's just something we felt like a lot of authors were leaving money on the table if they weren't in print. Just in general, we wanted to get that done. We've got a lot of big plans where we want to add in some different options like hardback and large format, for older readers still want to read print, but don't necessarily want to wear their glasses, or maybe they just need it even with their glasses. So
I'm putting my hand up for that. Well, because I'm like this.
I've been reading ebooks now for probably 10 years, and I picked up just a regular book the other day, and I was like, oh crap, I might need glasses now. Like, because I'm just used to on my phone, I can just like make the font bigger and bigger, and just
Yeah.
Do you ever do that thing where you're on something that's not something that can be expanded and you try and expand it?
Very frustrating. Very frustrating.
All the time.
Yeah.
I will like click on a word in a print word to try to define it. I frequently touch the screen of my MacBook because I'm used to have an
Yes.
iPad as
Yeah.
well, and I
Yes.
forget it's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
touchscreen.
Yeah.
What's
Mm.
going on? I just am amazed because some of the older print books I love, I can't read now. They're that small, and I'm
Yeah,
just-
that's true.
you know, those ones those originals that you
Yeah.
got years ago that started you the love of what you do, and
Oh, my
I
little
can't read
Georgette
them anymore.
Hires.
I just think
Yeah,
everybody-
like
yeah.
exactly.
Everybody
just-
in the 80s clearly had good eyesight, right?
And I
Yeah.
refuse to do what my father does and use a magnifying glass. I'm just not ready to go there yet.
But you'd actually do that when you go into a bookstore these days, don't you? You open up the book and you go, no, really? Don't think I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh,
So,
poor us.
and where do the print books get distributed to? Are there any other different platforms that people can access?
It is through the Ingram network, and so everywhere their books go, which is practically the whole planet,
Everywhere.
like they are kind of the big wig behind distributing print, and so it's the same network as they have.
Okay. it's
So
just
you
for-
don't actually need to use Ingram Spark now. You can just use
No,
Draft2Digital.
basically, like if you're already on Ingram Spark, you're going to reach the same place as you would with Draft2Digital. If you're with Draft2Digital, there's no reason to use like Ingram Spark or anywhere. You're going to have the same reach.
Okay.
Yeah. And can the print book that you make on Draft2Digital, can that be used everywhere? I'm assuming you can't use it on Amazon. I'm assuming you can't download it.
The PDF file that we generate, so that's going to be like the sort of file you have for print, can be used everywhere. We don't have a way for people to download the cover we generate yet.
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah, exactly.
And so that's print. Everyone's asked all their questions about
Yeah.
print. So now I'd like to
Oh,
move
I
on.
have one more question about print.
Yes.
Go.
Will Draft2Digital be taking down or lessening the time between changes that you can make in print? Because I believe at the moment it's still 90 days after you first publish a print book.
I think we will. We've been looking, the market is kind of changing a little bit, and so everyone in the market's kind of easing up a little bit on that. There's a little bit of, sadly, the print market, the infrastructure isn't as robust as the ebook. So when a change is made, it's got to be sent out to several places, and some of them take longer to process than others. And so really what's trying to solve is just people not making changes all the time. And then ordering a book and then wanting a refund because it hadn't had time to process. So I imagine as the print market gets better, we'll be able to lower that. I think this week we'll be making a pretty big announcement about changing some of the ways we do print proofs and author copies that will reduce some of the cost to authors. And so we're pretty excited about that.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I think the only thing that myself, I can only speak for myself, I guess, is when you put up a new book and somebody picks up something that your beta readers, your editors didn't pick up, and you hate the thought of it being out there en masse, and you'd really like to change it, and you're like, well, they just can't write. Well, you can, can't you? You can pay extra to expedite that.
Well, let's face it, we can have it.
And that's something where we don't make any extra money off that.
No.
Like that's an actual fee that we are charged to make those changes after a certain point.
And we all know that after 10 edits, that you'll open the page once it's printed, and the first thing you see is a mistake, right?
Always.
I mean, it's just Murphy's Law. That's just the way.
Crazy how that works. No matter how many eyeballs saw it, you can't.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy, right? Just
It is.
If the story's good enough, people won't even notice. That's
right. Yes, because you wouldn't notice, right?
Shut
But
up.
there's always that one reader that will.
Oh my gosh! And that email you get, that did you note on page line so 5 letters in that you've got an issue with a comma?
Yeah.
Love it. That's what we love about them.
Love your readers, Wendy. Repeat after
Yes.
me. I love
Yes,
You love your readers. Just a quick question on print covers. So you don't have to use the Draft2Digital one. You can put your own one in, right? I
Yeah.
might have missed that. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I
You
thought
can
that
bring
was
your
the
own
case.
covers. You can bring your own PDF files for the
Yeah.
interior design. All of that we support.
Yeah,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So let's move on to audio. So,
Dun, dun, dun.
so you guys have had an arrangement with. Do you still have the arrangement with Findaway? Am I right about
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of we thought about getting into audiobook distribution, but we found Findaway Voices kind of back in, well, it was before the pandemic. I don't remember exactly what year anymore. But they
Before
kind of had
pandemic,
already,
after
Pre-pandemic,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
pandemic.
Yeah.
they had already kind of set up all the different, you can think of Findaway Voices in the same way. They're like the audio version of Draft2Digital. They had already done kind of all the agreements to make wide audio. And so working with them, we generally generate, send people to them if they want to distribute their audio, which has kind of been most of our involvement in the audio space for a long time. However, we did start working with Apple a few years ago on their digital narration project. And so what they have done is they have paid some narrators to sample their voices, kind of like the way they did with Siri. And they can use that with their technology. And right now they will produce a free audiobook for it. It's not for all genres. They support right now romance, mysteries, thrillers, science fiction, fantasy, and limited some nonfiction. But they are working on getting into more and more different genres. And so that's kind of a free option that can give you a digital version of your book. It's definitely the best of the different. I think it sounds better than the ones generated by Google Play by quite a bit. It doesn't have the same sort of tool set that Google Play has to go in and edit things. But I think their software definitely does a better job of getting things mostly right to begin with. And it actually even has some emotion to it. So it's not read very flat. Like it infers when, if someone's angry, it infers if you've chosen to go with the female narrator and it's a male character talking, it can lower, have the female narrator talk in a lower range, kind of like a human narrator would do presented with that. And so it's just a really neat technology. They do restrict it as far as retail to only selling on the Apple Bookstore, but they are opening it up to for us to offer for it to be sold to library systems. And so it's something we're excited about. And I kind of like to think about it. I'm a big fan of human narrated books. I think there's enough room in the market for there to be like a lower price point digitally narrated version and a higher price point human narrated version, same way that we have paperbacks and hardbacks. I think there are some people that want the absolute best version of a format, and a human narrator will always be that way. But there are people, while for fiction, I would probably buy a human narrated version of something. For like nonfiction, I don't really care. Like I just want the information. And so, but I do like audiobooks and they let me multitask. And so most of these audiobooks that are going up are between like 99 cents and $7.99. So a much better deal for the readers. And so I think that will expand the audiobook market. And then, I've encouraged the authors we have that are using it to invest some of that money that they make into like saving up for a human narrator. I think it definitely kind of proves that there's a market, for people that aren't sure if this particular book will work in audio. It's a way to kind of test the waters without spending, your average audiobook is going to be somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 US to produce, which some people just don't have to spend. And so,
Yeah,
and I think
especially
that
not starting out.
No, and it's tough
Yeah.
to get, like I do reasonably well with my book sales and stuff like that, but I've never been able to get my audios to pay out, and I don't know if that's because we're in New Zealand or what, but whether it's the library people getting them through the libraries or whatever, but it is quite hard to get you to pay out when you have to pay a lot for a narrator.
Yeah.
And I also think it's
And I
expanding
think,
the market out. Like if you've got an audiobook that's 99 cents, that's affordable versus that, you know, the audiobooks that have been done by a human narrator are way more expensive in general. And it excludes some people. So it's
Yes,
actually,
exactly. Just like we were talking before about people going to libraries. Well, if Apple's going to put these into libraries, then that's more people that are going to read it and have the opportunity to read it, you know, from a reader's perspective. I've got a couple in Apple for one of my cozy mystery series. It is a paranormal, and it reads okay. I'm not going to rave about it. I'm not convinced that I'll go there with all my series, but I think for this one it does the job, and you know, the jury's still out. We'll see.
So it's early days, right?
But
Real
and,
early
you know,
days.
if you don't try stuff, you don't know, and we're living proof of that.
And Cher is our early adopter, so she's always on all the stuff.
We throw her. She's one of the ones we throw in first. Like if we go to a party and there's people we
watch
don't
how
know,
she does.
The lions,
she goes in before us. She's sort of like our,
So
I think it's something that we all have to consider, because now Apple has their version, Google Play has their version, Amazon has just opened the beta for their version. So these products aren't going away. The technology is getting better and better. I think with everything, there's going to be room for people are going to want human crafted experiences, because there's a way we connect to that. But I think there's room for all these different products.
So if you've got one on Google Play, one on all the different, so you can't get the same one across multiple platforms, the same. So you say you do it through Apple and get the that narration done. You can't put that same narration up in other places. It's like you would have a separate one on all those 3 different places.
Well, if you went to Draft2Digital.
There's been a new announcement or something that changed just recently, where Findaway started accepting the Google Play AI generated voices. And so you can generate, like if you use Google Play software to make an audiobook, you can download that and upload it to Findaway and get it to most places. I don't think they can send it to Audible yet, but you can get it into the Apple Bookstore, Barnes and Noble, and a couple other different, and Kobo. You can also upload directly to Kobo if you have an audiobook. People that didn't know that.
Okay. That's interesting. It's a changing world.
So many things,
It really
right?
is.
I think that's what I love about Draft2Digital, because it is overwhelming for a lot of authors, and being able to just go to one place, you know, is massive.
Well, especially when you're having to look at, you know, upscaling your blurbs and things like that. You know, if you have to do it everywhere, it's just a pain. But
and like you say, there's enough
changing
jobs
prices.
To do. Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't want to think about
That's what I love about that promotion tab, because, you know, you just lock it in and forget about it, and you don't have to, you know, like when you change a price in Amazon, you have to remember to go back in and change it unless you're in KU. And it's how many times?
Oh my God.
So have you got any of your what are some of the most commonly used, I don't actually, I'm not going to go there because we've kind of talked about a lot of stuff. What are there any tools at Draft2Digital that people don't commonly use that you think are underutilized, like things that you think that people should give a go or use more of?
We're definitely big fans of pre-orders, and we think that there's still a lot of authors that just have been scared to do pre-orders or don't think about doing it. But a lot of the retailers have different promotional opportunities just separately for pre-orders. And so when we've ran the numbers, authors that do pre-orders regularly far outsail the authors that don't. And I think maybe some of the fear people have is because Amazon used to be very restrictive on pre-orders. I think they still are, honestly. All of the wide retailers are very flexible if you need to change. Like if you set up a pre-order and then for whatever reason, you're just not going to make that deadline, there's really no hard penalty for that. You know, if you've got a pre-order set up and you change it every week and push it out a week, then they'll get a little bit angry about that. But yeah, if you know, life happens sometimes. So if you need to move a pre-order back a month or two, or even cancel a pre-order, they'll let you do that. And so I think many people are missing out on a lot of opportunity, because, I know Apple, Kobo, and Barnes& and Noble all have promotions that are only for pre-orders. And so that's something you can get into. Apple lets the pre-orders rank separately, and so they can show up in bestseller lists. But then on the day of release, it gets the full ranking juice, and so it can go way up on in their ranking. And so, especially for Apple, I think everyone should be doing pre-orders. I think the other tool that people don't realize that we have is we have an automated in matter tool. And so keeping, especially as your catalog grows and you're adding new books, making sure at the back of your book to have a link to all the other books on that platform can be a huge undertaking, and we can automate that for you. And so when you upload a new book, we will go back and automate, or once we get the link for the new book, we'll go ahead and add that to the links at the back of all your old books. And we'll make sure we send it to each retailer with specific links to them. And so the Apple version has Apple links, the Barnes & Noble version has Barnes & Noble links. And that's the way the retailers like to have those links to begin with. And so it just makes it really simple for authors, rather than, trying to direct someone to like your website, which then is like a 2 or 3 click process for them to get back to wherever they are. Some authors just don't have links at the back of their books, but they should, because there's no better moment to capture your reader. They're going to be most in love with your book the moment they finish the first one. And so having a link to the next one is just huge.
And also with the getting back to the pre-orders, when you take your book wide, or even if you start off going wide, I personally, when I took my books out of KU, I noticed that as soon as I started using the pre-order, I got more visibility and more sales on the wide platforms than I had previously without doing it. So I attest to that.
So is that, when you're talking about the links of the different retailers, is that better than using the I feel like I've got the books to read links in there now in the back of my wide books on Draft2Digital, is it?
You can, like if you want to provide your own links, you can use books to read, or there's a couple of other things you can do. In the case of if you're doing the books to read links, though, you're having to go back and add, you're manually having to go back and do your older stuff. And the way we do it, we're just automatically updating everything as we have the appropriate link. And so, especially if you've got like 10 or 15 books, that can save you hours of admin work.
But then you have
a lot.
Yeah. So any other areas that you think people should use more of?
I will say, we've already talked about promotions, but I think it's really good with the wide platforms to take part in every promotion you're eligible for, at least apply for it. I'm also big on applying for like BookBub feature deals every time you're eligible. I think those are some of the tools in the wide skill set that are a little bit different maybe than Amazon is for people, but they're the ways to keep getting visibility on new platforms. And that's the way to just keep growing and growing on wide, because it's just a little bit different. There's nothing like the Amazon ads that you can directly really fire up your visibility at a particular retailer. You can use things like Facebook ads, but those are often difficult to make the ROI make sense if you're directing them, specifically to one retailer.
So we've had Erin Wright on the podcast, and she talks about being wide. And one of the things she says is that Amazon rewards newness and all the other wide platforms reward longevity. Is that something you see as well, like in your from Draft2Digital's end?
A whole lot of the retailers are very cagey about talking about their algorithms, but we do know from like Kobo has said that their rankings are a mix of current velocity, like how much a book is moving, mixed with like an average of how much it's moved over several years. And so there is, I think you'll find, especially why I recommend things like BookBub and other email blast services, is things are just so much more sticky on the other retailers than they are at Amazon. And so Amazon really is just rewarding churn. And then they're also rewarding spending more money on their ads platform. and trying to eliminate any outside influence because they just want more and more of your money as they squeeze out more of the margin.
Yeah, fair enough. So just quickly, I want to ask, you mentioned the promotions newsletter. How do people get onto that? Is that something
you can write into our customer support team and they can add you to that. We also participate in Aaron Wright's group on Facebook, Wide for the Win. And so we have our promotions lead, Megan, posts, and Mark Lefebvre also posts about promotions that are going on, just in case people don't see the email, because we know you all get a lot of emails, and so sometimes it's easy to miss something. And so we generally post about any upcoming promotions in that Facebook group as well.
That's cool. And we're coming up to the end of the interview, but what I want to know, just quickly before we go, like, you've been in the industry a long while now, or in industry terms, 10 years, it's like you're practically 100 years old. It's
true.
Yeah,
I feel like 110.
Yeah. Are there any sort of, I don't know, recent changes or things that are happening in the industry that you think, our listeners need to be aware of or would love to be aware of?
I just got back from Dublin at the Author Sustainability Conference, and it was his first year as a conference. But I think some of those factors we've been talking about, like rewarding newness and chasing algorithms and everything, I think authors are starting to get burnt out, and so I think there's more of a focus on that and stuff that we need to be talking about, and just figuring out how to be okay with ourselves and setting realistic goals. I think some of the terminology that people are starting to use in the conference space is stuff like, you can really think of the 2010s as the gold rush for indie authors. And sadly, you're just, because of the way the market has changed, you're going to have to work harder to get the same level of success. And that's very frustrating. And so kind of getting in the right headspace and thinking of it as a business and not just as an artist, I think is very important. And I think there's a lot of authors sharing positive messages. I always am a big fan of like Becca Syme and all the work she's doing in the industry. And so I recommend people checking out her books and courses. I think that's something that's going on. I'm hearing more and more people working harder and feeling some frustration with that. And, I want to see authors stick around for a very long time. The other thing I'm seeing, and I think it also corresponds to this thing, is direct sales. There's just so much talk around direct sales. 5-10 years ago, there was not the sort of tool sets you need to support that. Nowadays, it's pretty good. And I think, especially for authors that are already wide, looking into direct sales is something that could be a really good thing to grow your business and grow your connection to your readers.
Yeah, fair enough. We see that. That's exactly.
Yeah,
I would say those
awesome.
are the two exactly things.
Great words.
We see.
Definitely the mindset thing's changing.
Yeah.
People are not chasing.
I'm heading, definitely. I'm heading to New Orleans for Monica Leonel and Russell Noerdy are running a mastermind called The Future of Publishing. And so I'm really interested. That's coming up in a few weeks for me. And so I'm really interested to see what all we're discussing. That I think it's going to be a lot of these things that we're talking about now, and trying to predict where things are going to be. Because I think while the gold rush was very exciting, I think as an industry matures and we have all the tools available, I think it's much easier to build a sustainable business. And it's not so much of a lottery, although I do think any creative industry is ultimately a lottery. And so I think now we're kind of moving to where there can be a little bit more stability. And, if you're deliberative about what you're doing and what you're pursuing, and not, killing yourself chasing after every little thing that might help, I think our businesses will get more stable and better.
Yeah.
Awesome words.
Awesome.
It's so true.
Very, very wise. Yes.
Very wise, Dan.
Yeah.
All those 110 years you've been in the business is showing.
I think next time I'm on here, I'll have like a fully white beard.
Call you Gandalf. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast today. We've really appreciated it. And so what is the best place for people to find out more about Draft2Digital or to contact you if you're allowed to have people?
Yeah, we are all over the place. Draft2Digital, like you can find us on Facebook at Draft2Digital. We have the Self-Publishing Insiders podcast. So if you're into podcasts, something we've been doing now for several years. We're on YouTube, and it's just a Draft2Digital YouTube channel. You can always reach out to our support at draft2digital.com. You can find me on most platforms at Dan Wood OK, where the OK is for Oklahoma, where I live.
Not
not just
okay.
Dan.
Sounds very like,
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's like a million Dan Woods, and so I never
Yeah.
get Dan Wood as my user
No.
handle. So
That went
Call
way
it the
too
official
far.
Dan Wood. You make yourself sound
The-
more,
the original.
the
the
original
OG.
Dan Wood.
OG
Oh my
Dan
gosh.
Wood.
He's
we're
the
renaming all
okay.
the-
Let the man rest, woman.
Yeah.
Goodness.
the veteran.
The veteran, yeah. See, the veteran
That's not a
Dan
bad
Wood.
thing to
See,
be.
we've got
Yeah,
it.
brilliant. Anyway,
Anywho, where can we be found? Who
We
wants to
can be
say?
found at spargirlspodcast.com for all our previous episodes. We can be found at Patreon at Spargirls Podcast, and we can be found at YouTube at Spargirls Podcast.
Awesome.
nice.
All the places.
Very
All the
efficient, Shah.
places.
Thank you all to our listeners for listening to another episode of the Spa Girls podcast. We're very happy to have had you here with us, and thank you to Dan again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we'll be
Thank
back
you.
again next week. For now, we'll see you.
Keep well.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.